Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jenny with Frizz Drip, and I will be making a candy cane soap. So this is my yearly candy cane soap. I've made this soap before. I made a small batch last year. I had 4 layers, red, white, red, white. This year I'm making 5 layers, and I will be splitting up my batch and mixing each individual layers. So let's talk about the oils, and we'll talk about my process. These are my liquid state oils, which are olive oil, grapeseed oil, and castor oil. I have, where is my spatula? I have, oh, it's right here. I have colloidal oats and kaolin clay in there. That gives it this creaminess you see. And these are my melted hard oils, which are babasu oil, coconut oil, and shea butter. I also have menthol crystals in here. So let me show you what menthol crystals look like. They are, they look just like that, and they are oil soluble, meaning they dissolve in oil, but you know the oil needs to be warmed up. So when I warmed up my hard set oils, and I threw them in there, and they dissolved like almost instantaneously. Well, not almost instantaneously, but really quickly. So that's what in here. This is my lye solution with water, with sugar, silk, and sodium lactate in here. And then we have my fragrance oil, which is peppermint essential oil. And I have red colorant. This is true red from Mad Mica. And I have my titanium dioxide. So I was making a massive batch of titanium dioxide in here. It's pretty thick. The batch I made is pretty thick, and unfortunately this doesn't have a cap. If you're making a massive batch of titanium dioxide, please ensure you use a squeeze bottle that has a cap. I looked for it. I have a bunch of squeeze bottles and I cannot find the cap, so I'm going to go back on website and see where I can find them. And then you need some stainless steel ball bearings or nuts, and you throw a few of them in there. I Dream in Soap has a good tutorial on how she does this with oil. I mix mine with oil. Yeah, and this is the leftover, so I will be using the leftover for this batch. Okay, so this is how we're gonna go with this. I'm gonna be splitting. I'm gonna combine my oils only, and then I'm gonna split it into 5 batches, because I'm not gonna premix my soap, my all of these, because I need a fluid batter. And because of that, I am going to do this in layers. So there's a 5 layered soap. I'm going to do this in layers, and that's just the way I feel. That's just the way I like to do my layered soaps. Especially if I am very particular about having pristine layers, like there's no break from one layer to another. My advice is to do it this way. You can mix your entire batch and do it that way, but then again, you're not sure, especially if you're not sure how quickly it's going to set in a mold. Different factors will determine that. Did you under blend, or did you over blend, or and then how long do you think the soap that's already been mixed is going to be sitting? That's all going to play a factor in how pristine your layers are going to be. Also, what type of oils do you have? If you have more liquid state oils than hard state oils, that will also depend. Also depend on the liquid state oil, because castor oil is a liquid state oil, but it accelerates your batter. So say for example you have 60% olive oil, and maybe I don't know, 20% lard or 30% lard or something like that, or tallow, and then 5% shea, 5% castor oil. That would be a fluid batter. That's a recipe, or that's a batter that will stay fluid longer than if you had like more hard oils in your recipe, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So you're gonna see me do the do, and keep watching, and hopefully you enjoy this. Same thing I'm gonna do with the lye. I'm gonna split the lye into five. Oh, how do you do it? What I basically do is I measured my bowl empty, put that number aside. Um, as you can see, my numbers here. Put that number aside, and then by the time I've mixed all of this, I will weigh the bowl with the content in there, and it will tell me how much that is. I will subtract the weight of the bowl from that, and then divide whatever I get by 5, and I'll do the same thing for the lye. I weighted the empty container, and then now that it's cooled down and anything that has evaporated, I will then measure. You don't want to measure it right after you mix the lye, because evaporation will happen. You want to measure it when it's cooled down and you're ready to make your soap. At that point, you then do the same thing, weigh, subtract from the empty bowl, and then divide by 5. At least that's how I do it. You don't want to make sure you want to make sure that there isn't a layer that's lye heavy, basically. So you shouldn't go wrong with doing it that way. Otherwise, if you're playing it safe and not sure, you don't really care about pristine lines, go ahead and mix the entire batter up, and then split into 5, and pour. I mean, there's nothing wrong with non-pristine lines. I just want pristine lines is all. All right, keep watching. I thought it would be great for me to talk through my process of what I actually do when I'm making soap. I usually always start by master batching my oils. Not master batching in the true sense of what master batching is. Well, I guess there are different ways of master batching, but the true main way of master batching is mixing up all your oils in one big drum or pot or something, and then whenever you want to make your soap, you take out the quantity you want, you take your lye, mix, blend, and do and pour. How I master batch, because I don't make hundreds of bars at once. Usually I'm making 30 bars at once, or 10 or something. So, and I don't make soap every day. How I master batch is I master batch per type of soap, in the sense that I measure out all my liquid oils in one bucket with my additives, and my hard oils I measure it in a different container, and I do that per soap type. And then it could sit for as long as it sits until I come and make soap. So it could be there for like a week, it could be there for 2 days, it could be there for however many days. I don't let it sit for too long. But that's what master batching is, and that's how I master batch. I don't melt my hard oils until the morning of when I want to soap. That's the point at which I then put my beaker on my hot plate, melt my oils, and then at that time I'm preparing my lye. At this point in my soap making journey, I haven't started master batching my lye, and it's about the exact same thing. There are 2 ways of master batching lye. You can use a 50-50 solution, or you can master batch per the soap type, meaning you're using full water to your lye. When I say full water, I mean full water based on the water discount you're already going to put into consideration when you are mixing your lye solution. So at this point, I haven't started doing that, just because I currently feel I have the time in the morning to melt my hard oils and to mix my lye solution, and just step away and do other things and come back a few hours later. Well, after, when I say a few hours later, no, I don't mean my oils being on the hot plate. I mean my oil already off of the hot plate and my lye solution in the fridge. cooling off. I can come back after a few hours and everything is good to go. My oil, my lye water is sitting somewhere around 80 something degree, at most 90 something degrees. And by the time I mix my room temperature oils to my melted hard oils, I'm sitting around the same point. And then you really don't want to mix hot lye with cool oils, unless if you're doing the the what am I trying to say? Unless if you're trying to use your hot light to melt your solid oils. I think I've talked about in the past. I used to do that a couple years ago. I haven't done that method in a while. That's about when you're using the hot oil as an aid to melt your butters and your hard oils. That's a whole different conversation. There are many reasons why you don't want to just straight up put your hot lye in room temperature oils when it's not that you're trying to melt hard oils. And, I can talk about that at a different point. So that is how I go about getting ready for my day of soaping. And it usually works out very well for me. I think I mentioned this in a previous video. I usually don't get lye lint. And lye lint all has to do with oxygen hitting your lye, and and all of that. I've talked about that in a different video. I'm soon gonna start trying the master batching of my lye. It's going to be something of a new experience for me, and hopefully it works out and it can just make that morning of soaping that much easier. Another thing I've never really done before that I probably could try and see how it comes out is melting my hard oils in mixing it with my room my liquid state oils, and master batching my oils that way. The only reason I haven't yet done that is because I fear that by the time I come in the morning to soap, my oils would have hardened, and that would only usually happen if you have a higher percentage of hard oils and you mix it in and it solidifies. I don't, but I still have that reservation that there is a possibility of my babasu or my coconut and whatever little shea butter I have when it's mixed with the other things, it kind of firms up and whatnot. I think I should give that a try and see. It shouldn't be a big deal because it's gonna be all about just hitting it up just a little bit, and it being back in its liquid state. Honestly, let's be honest here. The only reason I haven't tried it is because I'm lazy. Lazy in the sense that I mix my liquid seed oils in a plastic container like you see in my videos. And I use a hot plate to melt or anything else, or to heat up my water for cream making. And I use a hot plate. I don't use a microwave because I don't I want to avoid hot spots. So I use a hot plate, and obviously you cannot put plastic on a hot plate. And if everything firms back up, it means I have to scoop out, put in a hot plate safe container, like in my beaker, and then put it back on the hot plate and then transfer it back. I'm just lazy like that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with that. So, but I guess I should at least once give it a try and see how it works out. I'm actually preparing to make soap here. I already did my master batching, so probably the next one, I'll try that way. Yeah, that's how I prepare to start making soap. And then the morning when I get my hard state oils on the hot plate and my lye solution mixed up and in the fridge, I start prepping my oils. Like you see, I pre-mix my oils in olive oil. And sometimes I use my batch oil. Most of the times, to be honest, I use extra oil. What that does is it's giving an extra super fat. And we can talk about superfat is at a later point, but what I would say is you need to be, if you're doing it the way I do it most of the time, which is just adding extra oil that's not part of my batch oil, you have to be conscious of how much superfat you already have in your recipe, just so that you're not leaving too much superfat that you are risking DOS, or a DOS meaning dreaded orange spot, which actually alludes to oil rancidity and all that. Also, you have to consider the types of oils you have in your batch. Are they long shelf life oils, or are they short shelf life oils? There's some oils that are not good to have a super fat in soap. If you there's some recipes that are not good if you have too much super fat in your soap, because of the short shelf lives of the soap. And that's because you're going to have all that free floating oils. That's what superfat is: free floating oils in your soap that did not go through saponification. It's hanging around, being deposited on your skin, doing all those good stuff that everyone loves handmade soap for and whatnot. So I do all that pre-mixing. I measure out my fragrance oil or my essential oil. Like in this video, I use essential oil. Well, thank you all for watching. See you in my next video.